y'all, I discovered how to make puff pastry with CK chicken flour and CK almond flour. Now, in this video, I'm going to be working with the more difficult CK chicken flour, and I've done a ton of testing with the CK almond. It works way better and more beautifully. Obviously, with the CK chicken flour, we will be making savory pastries, something like a cheese Danish, or if you just want to add, some meat on here. This was just my little tester, and I'm so pleased with the difference. And this one holds its shape. For all the visuals in the actual recipe, I am going to be using the CK chicken flour, but I have a list of the ingredients for the CK chicken flour recipe for the puff pastry, separate to the CK almond flour puff pastry recipe in the description box. So follow my method, that's coming right up, but do use the ingredients in the description box. Come on, y'all. We're going to prepare a yeast mixture first. So I have a 1/4 cup of almond milk in this little bowl, and I'm going to heat it to 100 degrees Fahrenheit or about 40 degrees Celsius. I've got mine to the right temperature, and if you're using a stand mixer, your bowl will be quite cold. And so for the best results, let's heat up this bowl just by placing it under hot water and swirling it around. Okay, pour your warm almond milk into your warm bowl. If you don't have almond milk on hand, you can use half cream and half water. Still give you the same result. Half teaspoon of honey. And I like to give it a good whisking to incorporate those two ingredients, so your yeast has the best chance of blooming. 10 grams of instant or active dried yeast. Final whisk. And that's how it looks. And now we cover it. Let your yeast mixture rest for about 15 minutes and it should be fully bloomed by then. In the meantime, let's make up our dry ingredients, which will be 300 grams of clean keto flour. Now, in this bowl, I have CK chicken flour, but I have used almond flour a ton of times, and it's the same amount, 300 grams or 2.5 cups. A half cup of bamboo fiber. If you don't have bamboo fiber and you use oat fiber in your CK flour, use that. 1/3 cup of sweetener. Let's talk about the sweetener. I'm using 1/3 cup of sweetener because it is CK chicken flour that I've got in this bowl, and I want to dial down the chicken flavor. I want to make it a little bit more bland. So I'm using 1/3 cup of sweetener. Also, this is going to be a savory puff pastry. If you want to use the puff pastry for a sweet treat or dish, you want to use 2/3 cup of sweetener and the CK almond flour. If all that's confusing, just refer to the description box. I've listed the ingredients separately per each flour, so almond and chicken. Next, we're going to need baking powder. 18 grams, which is a tablespoon and a teaspoon of baking powder. Half teaspoon of salt, because I find that with CK chicken flour, you don't need as much salt. So in the CK almond flour, for example, if you're making a sweet dough, you would use 1 teaspoon of salt. And finally, our binding agent. In this bowl, I have 4 tablespoons of beef powdered gelatin. You can use 1 teaspoon of Xanthan Gum if you wish. And we're going to mix it all together. Okay, that has fully combined. Time to check on this. It's only been about 10 minutes, but I think it's going to be good. Come take a look. Look at my yeast. Add 3 large eggs at room temperature to the bowl. It must equate to about 180 grams. So make sure that you have large eggs, and you can also use egg whites. If you're using CK almond flour, you are only going to need 1 egg. This is a 1/4 cup of almond milk. Like I said before, you can use half and half cream, and drop in your dry ingredients all at once. Nice and easy. And you mix that together until you have one consistency. Okay, so with the CK almond flour, you will need a 1/4 cup of almond milk, like I said before. But I wanted to show you the difference with the CK chicken and how much more absorbent it is. And that's why we're increasing the almond milk. For the CK chicken, you're going to need a full 1 cup of almond milk, or 240 grams. If you're using CK almond flour, you're only going to need a 1/4 cup of almond milk. And here's my dough. It comes out in large clumps. Now, you can eyeball it and say, for example, if you used small eggs and your dough is a bit dry, just add a bit more almond milk until it's soft like that. And it comes together in large clumps. Okay, the next step is rolling it out and bringing it together. I'm going to try something different today. I don't know if you think it might be a better idea than doing parchment paper, but I'm putting some cling wrap or cling film down, or plastic wrap down on my counter, and sort of lining my counter with the plastic wrap. Okay, and dumping all of the dough onto your counter. And with wet hands, bring your dough together. Okay, and with one rolling pin and some paper, so my dough doesn't stick to my rolling pin, I'm just going to stretch this dough out. Okay, my dough is at a 1/4 inch thickness, or 6 millimeters. And if you have a rolling pin like mine, you want to use the orange ones. That's the correct measurement. In terms of the length of your sheet of dough, it would be 17.5 inches long lengthways, or short ways, it would be 11.5 inches. Let's take a look at this dough now. Okay, it's a very soft dough. In order to fix these little cracks, you want to see how soft it is. You want to bring it in like that, and it takes care of the cracks beautifully. This is also how I would store my puff pastry. I have wrapped it really well in saran or cling wrap, and I've put it on a board so it stays flush, and with my board it has stability. Now, we need a layer of butter. In fact, we're going to do 2 layers of butter at once, and with the measurements I've given you, you're going to need, imagine your sheet of dough in thirds, right? So we're going to need 2/3 of butter, thinly rolled out. So I've got a long sheet of baking paper, and this is sort of my template with the covering, so that when I'm rolling my butter flat, nothing happens to my rolling pin. Okay, so my template actually measures 12 inches or 31 centimeters, and that is going to be 6 inches of butter, 6 inches of butter. Don't worry, it's going to make sense real soon. In the bowl, I have 113 grams or 1 stick of soft butter, and I'm just going to add that to the middle of my baking paper. You can do this however you want, but we're aiming to get a thin layer of butter. Do try to get it even, and try to get it into those corners so that it fits your template completely. Okay, that's the best I can get mine. And now you're going to freeze this for 10 minutes so that when we release the butter out of the paper, it doesn't stick too badly to it. Woohoo! Okay, it's semi-frozen now. And we are going to cut this in half, but these into thirds. So you will have your butter on the edge of your puff pastry, cut 1/3 and then move it over. We are going to cut this puff pastry for now and then roll it out because it's not going to matter later. And don't worry about this, you can just always fix up the holes, or if anything sticks to that, you can just put it right back. Now slice into thirds as best as you can, and you can see that my dough is quite stiff, and that's because it was chilled prior to this. When you chill your dough firms up, just like regular puff pastry. So now we're going to fold the sides in and the side in as well to form layers. See here, we're not really worried about cracks at this stage, just as long as you can get your layers done. Because when we roll it out, all of this is going to disappear. I'm just going to prepare my dough now by rolling out a little thinner. You want to make sure that your dough is soft when you roll, just so it's easier. Otherwise you might have a tough time and the dough is going to crack. So I'm happy with this thickness for me. And this is how it looks. You can see little flecks of butter in the dough seeping through. That's quite all right. And you can also trim off your dough if you so wish, just so everything stays neat and tidy. You can add that back into your dough if you wish, or throw it away. I'm not going to share any recipes for the puff pastry right now in this video because it is long enough, but I will give you the oven settings in case you want to go ahead. You want to preheat your oven to 320 degrees Fahrenheit or 160 Celsius. Cut out a portion of your puff pastry and roll it out thinner. So I like to use paper just because it's really reliable and it doesn't crease like plastic wrap or saran wrap. And so I would cut out a piece, transfer it onto my paper, and roll it out thinner. You don't want to roll yours to as thin as 1/4 of an inch. You want to get it to about 1 centimeter or 10 millimeters or 3/8 of an inch. This is just a little tester to see how the puff pastry puffs up in the oven. So I've created a little cheese Danish template, if you like. Somebody was asking me for cheese Danish and this is how I would do it. And then the last few minutes of baking, I would sprinkle my cheese so it can melt. Place in a baking pan or sheet with your baking paper down and cover with foil. Loosely is fine. Okay, just 15 minutes have passed and we're gonna check our little puff pastry situation. And do bear in mind, I only created 3 layers with my puff pastry. You could keep going with this and create 6 layers or 12 if you so wish. But let's have a look after 3 layers. Here is a piece of this dough that I rolled out. I rolled it out quite thin, as you can see. And then I just puffed up the edges here with an extra layer strips. But my word, look at this. I'm so happy with it. I have made regular puff pastry before in the past. It is way longer than this process and I feel that I really enjoyed making this. As I said before, we're not including any finished puff pastry recipes. I wanted to show you the results so you can just go ahead. I will share some, and if you need something specific, please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and be well.